And they're off, and we are racing from home. Jerry and I, no special guests this week. We're going to do the whole thing solo. Give us a little more chance to ramble,
I
and
can
we're
bring
going to
my
try
dog
to.
Lucy in if you like.
You should. You should. I've got Lucy on the couch here as well. We can just have the dogs meet each other via Zoom. We got a lot of topics to hit. We're trying to get them all in without getting too wordy. Let's start with the Santa Anita Derby, which of course is run on Saturday, the rescheduled Santa Anita Derby. Authentic, the heavy favorite with Bob Baffert going against Honor AP. Interesting side twist to this Santa Anita Derby is the pace scenario. We've seen the post position drawn now. What do you think?
I still think Authentic's a legitimate favorite. I think he probably wins, but Honor AP is a very good colt, and I respect John Sheriffs, and I think he'll have him ready. If you just remember, I'm sure you do, in the San Felipe, Authentic went right to the lead. I wouldn't say he got away with murder, but he got his own pace, and Honor AP, that was his first out in a long time. And he made a good run to close the gap, but it was never going to threaten Authentic. Now, Authentic has an outside draw relative to Shoot or Shoot, the other speed, Peter Urton's horse, who certainly will keep him more entertained this time, I believe. I don't think Authentic is a horse that you can rate a lot. I think he's got speed. I think that's a natural tool of his. I think it should be used. He's got a high cruising speed. So if Shoot or Shoot goes crazy, 22, 45, yeah, he probably inherits the lead and Authentic is right off of it. But I don't think they're going to go that fast. I do think it's honest enough for Honor AP to have a chance to win, but I'm still going, and I think Authentic will be the favorite. I'm still going with him.
See, I have a different opinion of this.
Okay.
I think Shoot or Shoot is a faster horse than Authentic. At least he has more early speed than Authentic.
He would have intentions of going to the lead.
Well, he's got to have intentions of going to the lead. First of all, he's drawn inside Authentic. Secondly, that's his best tool, is his speed. And thirdly, the only time on his form where they tried to rate him off the pace, it ended disastrously. Now, there might have been more to that effort because that was in August and he didn't resurface again until 2020, so he might have hurt himself in that race. But I think you could look, all three of Shoot or Shoot's races are faster from a pace perspective than all three of Authentic's races. And I don't think Baffert and Drayden Van Dyke want to get hooked into a speed duel. So I'm expecting Shoot or Shoot to go to the lead on the inside, and I'm expecting Van Dyke to try to rate Authentic just off of Shoot or Shoot. That's what I think is going to happen.
How fast do you think the first half and three quarters are going to be? That's the question I would have to ask you.
It could be fast. It could be fast. But if you go back and look at Shoot or Shoot's last race, and I know you probably did, he's a pretty nice horse. He ran against a horse at Oaklawn on April the 11th named Blackberry Wine, who's a very talented 3-year-old from the Joe Sharp barn, who's now sidelined for a couple of months with an injury. Blackberry Wine had already run a figure in the mid-90s, and they went at each other from the start, tooth and nail, through 6 furlongs and 109 and change, going a mile at Oaklawn. Shoot or Shoot was on the inside, Blackberry Wine on the outside, and Shoot or Shoot never gave an inch. Neither horse did, really. And they went at each other all the way down the stretch, and Shoot or Shoot gamely won. Now, his Beyer speed figure dropped just a little bit, but if you know anything about speed figures, if you know really anything about handicap, I know you do, I'm talking to the viewers, you can't always go just by speed figures. You have to go by how the race was run and how that speed figure was earned. And even though it was slightly lower, the 89, than his 92 speed figures he'd gotten in his previous 2 races, to me, given the pace circumstances, that was by far the best race of his career. So I think not only is he going to go to the lead, I think he's going to be a pretty tough customer for Authentic to get by. I think Authentic will get by him, but how much of a toll will that take? And is Authentic, as you pointed out, is Authentic the kind of horse that will readily accept being rated just off the pace, as Nadal did in the Arkansas Derby?
Okay, so I agree with a lot of what you said, but you have to remember, as good as you think Shoot or Shoot's race was, it was an allowance race, a non-winners of 1. He's now going up against Authentic, who's already won 2 stakes, undefeated, 3 out of 3 in 2 stakes. So my feeling is, okay, Shoot or Shoot takes the lead. Authentic sits right off of him. The pace is fast enough for Authentic not to be strangled. So he, in your terms, accepts it until they get to the top of the back, or the end of the backside, going into the far turn. And Authentic's going to be all over this horse just naturally because he's going to inhale him at the 3/8 pole. He's going to challenge him maybe for a 16th of a mile, could be to the top of the stretch, and then he's going to put him away. Shoot or Shoot is just not that good a horse, in my opinion, and he hasn't run against a horse like Authentic. And when horses eyeball another horse that's got way more class, and to this point, Authentic has way more class, he's going to give it up. Now, how hard does he fight Authentic around the turn? How deep does the fight go? Does it go to the 3/16 pole? Does it go to the 8 pole? I don't think so, but if it does, then it sets up for Honor AP.
And I think it does. I think it does go to the quarter pole, 3/16 pole, because I think Shoot or Shoot is maybe a little bit nicer of a horse than you do. And I don't think he's going to just give it up. I think he's going to fight pretty hard, especially if he's on a clear early lead. Where do they rate Authentic? They rate Authentic maybe a length and a half back.
Wait a minute.
To get him to relax.
Because if he's a length and a half clear, he's going 45-4 or 46 flat.
I don't think Authentic's that fast.
Well, Authentic just okay. Hang on a second. I'm going to go to the glasses here.
Grab your PPs.
46-3. Okay, in the San Felipe. So let's say he goes 46-3 again. Okay. I think he'll go faster than that because I think with the horse in front of him, he's going to go faster than that. But let's just say he goes 46-3. I think Shoot or Shoot's got to go 45-4 to be 2 lengths clear or 46 flat. So can he go 46 flat and still have enough to fight him? I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, that's why they run the racing.
Here's where I'm getting to through all this.
Oh, yeah.
If Honor AP is going to beat Authentic, this is the day.
I totally agree with that.
This is the day that it could conceivably set up for him if the pace scenario winds up being what we think it's going to be or what I think it's going to be. Shoot or Shoot going to the lead and Authentic sitting right off of him. We don't know if Authentic can do that willingly. He gets more distance at 1 1/8. And in the San Felipe, when Honor AP finished second to Authentic, I think it bears remembering that Honor AP had missed training time.
Yes, he did.
Before that, he had that episode in which he had to be taken out of training briefly. Mike Smith mentioned it, and John Sheriff's mentioned it before the San Felipe, that he wasn't going to be quite 100%. His next race was going to be even better. And Mike Smith, after the San Felipe, said he was very encouraged by the way Honor AP ran, given the fact that he might not have been 100%. So A, the pace might set up for him. B, he gets more distance. And C, he might be tighter.
And if you remember on our show, Mike Smith said he's been training out of sight. The last time we talked to Mike about how it went the first weekend at Santa Anita, he said he's been training brilliantly. So I would expect that, yes, if he's going to beat Authentic this weekend, the Santa Anita Derby is the race.
All right. We agree on something there. Okay, good. It's going to be interesting. Jerry and I usually agree on almost everything, but it's fun when we go back and forth a little bit occasionally. Okay, one thing we haven't had a chance to talk too much about, you and I have done it privately, but we haven't really done it in this format. We've had other people and asked their opinions of it. The revamped Triple Crown with the Belmont first on June the 20th, followed by the September the 5th Kentucky Derby, or September, what's the date? First Saturday in September 5th.
Yeah, I think it's
and then the October 3rd, I believe, the first Saturday in October, Preakness Stakes. So we're going Belmont, Derby, Preakness. These horses are going to get a race in between the Belmont and the Kentucky Derby. It's going to be completely different this year. Some people are really belly aching about it. Let's share some opinions here. What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, as you say, we've talked about it at length. And look, I think we both agree. I feel that the Belmont really couldn't run in October. It couldn't wait until the third leg of the Triple Crown just to keep them in order. At 1.5 miles, people aren't going to run their 3-year-olds, unless they're going for the Triple Crown, 1.5 miles, 4 weeks before the Breeders' Cup. Now, if the Breeders' Cup would have moved back deeper into November, maybe. But that wasn't going to happen either, as far as I know. So I think Belmont did the best thing that it could for itself. Once Churchill Downs established the first Saturday in September was the Derby, I think Belmont picked a date that they thought they could open safely, run it, and then changing of the distance just made all the sense in the world. Again, as we've discussed, you can't run 1.5 miles the first one, I don't think. I just don't think you can run 1.5 miles as the first leg of the Triple Crown. It didn't make a lot of sense. And so what's your options after that? 1.25 miles? That would have been perfect, I think, actually. But at Belmont, with the configuration of the 1.5 mile track, you would be braking right on the turn, which is totally unfair to any horse drawing outside number 8, basically, maybe even outside number 7, because they're automatically losing a ton of ground, breaking right on the bend of the first turn. So your next best option is a straight one-turn mile and an eighth. Makes sense leading up into the mile and a quarter Derby. Makes sense being the first of the 3 Triple Crown races. I don't think we'll ever see it again, but I think they made the right call and the right distance.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to stress for all these people that are, uber traditionalists that are really crying about this, is that everything has changed during this pandemic, not just horse racing, but all sports have had to alter their traditional schedules and alter the way they do business. This is a one-off. This is something that's strictly because of what we're all experiencing. It's Belmont trying to do, or the New York Racing Association trying to make the best they can of the situation. Martin Panza pointed out when we had him on this Zoom, and it makes total sense, that one of the factors in not scheduling the Belmont at a mile and a half was that these horses, a lot of them, especially the ones based in New York, haven't been running. Right. So not only is it always challenging for a 3-year-old in June to go a mile and a half, but now you're asking 3-year-olds that haven't been as active in all these prep races, that haven't been tested in all the races prior to the Kentucky Derby, and then the Derby, and then sometimes the Preakness onto the Belmont. It just sort of completely changes the whole dynamic. So I think they had basically 3 choices. Choice 1 was what I've heard on social media from some people that I totally disagree with. If you can't run the Belmont a mile and a half, it's not the Belmont anymore, it's the Peter Pan. Don't run it at all. Well, that's not fair to these 3-year-olds. I mean, give them some semblance of a Triple Crown, right? Sure. I mean, the second option would be to run it at a mile and a half, and that's not logical in our opinion. And the third option would be what they're doing right now. They could have run it closer to the Kentucky Derby, I suppose, but then you're cannibalizing Saratoga. You want to keep the Travers as a viable race.
Sure.
We assume they're going to move the Travers. It hasn't been announced yet, I don't believe, as we tape this. Yeah, but they're probably going to move it to early August or maybe late July.
In an ideal world for Belmont, the Travers would be accessible to the horses coming out of Belmont and still a stepping stone to the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly. Now, if a horse sweeps the Triple Crown this year, I've been asked this a lot, on air and privately, will there be an asterisk?
Yeah, sure.
My answer has always been, yeah, of course. Sure. There's going to be an asterisk, simply because you don't have the Belmont as the so-called test of the champion at a mile and a half, which has been the undoing of so many 3-year-olds that have tried to sweep the Triple Crown. You won't have that this year. So it's going to be different. But still, let's say Tiz the Law sweeps the Triple Crown. I know we both have him number 1 right now on our Derby list. Maybe a one-turn Belmont might be a little bit different, but let's say Triple Crown, that Tiz the Law beats Charlatan and Maxfield in a one-turn mile and an eighth, runs down Charlatan to win the Belmont, and then he wins the Kentucky Derby, and then he wins the Preakness. That's an accomplishment.
To me, that's totally legitimate.
Totally legitimate, right? Now, will there be an asterisk? Yes, he didn't go a mile and a half, but it's still a heck of an accomplishment for a horse to win all 3 of those races, hopefully against the best horses in his generation. And so that's something I think people have to keep in mind.
All right, so let's pivot a little bit to give me your top 5. And I don't know, because when people ask me about my top 5, I say, okay, are you talking about for the Kentucky Derby or now for the Belmont? Because it changes a little bit for me if we're talking just Belmont. Because it appears right now that Bob Baffert is going to run Charlatan in the Belmont at a mile and an eighth, and he would not be in my top 3 or 4 at Churchill Downs going a mile and a quarter.
Okay, who's your top 5 then? Okay,
Tiz the Law has been and still remains number 1 for me.
Okay.
Now, it depends on where Maxfield goes. If it's for the Belmont, I'm going to go Charlatan number 2, Maxfield number 3. If we're talking about the Triple Crown, the Derby, I'm going to go Maxfield number 2, Charlatan number 3. So are we just concentrating on the Belmont here?
I agree with what you just said. I have concerns, as we have said on this Zoom before when we analyzed the Arkansas Derby. I have concerns about Charlatan at extra distance. I think Charlatan, if he runs long enough, is going to become known as maybe not primarily, but his biggest strength would be at a mile.
Yes, I agree.
I think that is going to be his wheelhouse as a mile. Mile and a quarter, I think he's going to lose effectiveness. I think he lost a little bit of effectiveness at a mile and an eighth in the Arkansas Derby, but that's another debate that we can have. So I agree with you that at the Belmont, if he goes, at a 1-turn mile and an eighth, probably controlling the pace. We'll see who else goes in there. But that should be perfect for Charlatan, as opposed to the Kentucky Derby at a mile and a quarter, bigger field, and maybe a little more pace pressure.
If he's going to win a Triple Crown race, it's going to be the Belmont at a mile and an eighth in 1 turn, for Charlatan.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. And if Tiz the Law is good enough to spot Charlatan a clear lead and run him down in the Belmont at a mile and an eighth around 1 turn, more power to him.
And I think he probably is, because Tiz the Law is tactical. I mean, he was kind of a speed horse that they had to fight a little bit to get off the lead down here in Florida his first time out. And I think it was the Holy Bull Stakes. And he went ahead and took it, but that tells me he's got enough gait and early speed going in the first eighth of a mile to stay tactical and have Charlatan in his sights at all times. So it's not like he's going to drop out the back door, and he's a quality horse. Charlatan is the only horse that he has not run faster than. If we go by the numbers, Charlatan is faster than any 3-year-old in the country to this date on his best race.
So now this might be a good time to sneak in a little conversation about a buzz horse that's also running on Saturday on the Santa Anita Derby undercard, also trained by Bob Baffert. We spent so much time this spring talking about Charlatan and Nadal and Authentic, and there's been this cult looming in the background the whole time since last year in California when he was in training, named Cezanne, named after the famous impressionist painter Paul Cezanne.
Yeah.
Owned by Coolmore, $3.65 million buy at the Fasig-Tipton March 2-year-old sale of last year. They had him in training at Del Mar, suffered some minor injuries. They hoped to get him back earlier this year. They didn't. Well, now Cezanne makes his debut after 20 published workouts, and the rumor mills are buzzing about exactly how good Cezanne is. Now, he runs 6.5 furlongs on Saturday, draws post position. He drew the 1 hole, post number 1. Baffert has another horse in the race called Brazen in post position number 2, a first-time starter who just worked June the 1st in company with Charlatan and actually held his own in that workout against Charlatan. And there's another horse in the race called Ray Ray, who's at an 86 buyer speed figure coming out of his last race. So it's not a gimme, but maybe we'll see from Cezanne on Saturday if this hype is justified.
So if we just dial back to 2018, Justified had not run until the middle of February, right? February 15th, which was a little over 2 months, 2.5 months before the Kentucky Derby. So now if you apply that same calendar to Cezanne, this is farther out. We're approaching about 2.5 months right now. We're getting close to it, but it's slightly farther out. So in theory, this could be another Justified type situation where if he lives up to the hype and his price tag, and he's brilliant, he has enough time. If he gets the right races, he could actually make the Kentucky Derby, I suppose.
You know, we've been saying when we're talking about the Kentucky Derby and the rescheduling of it to the to September 5th, and one of the things that we've been pointing out is that it can kind of change the type of horse that you get, because some 3-year-olds are later developing, and we always used Arrogate as an example of the kind of horse that might be successful in a September Kentucky Derby that wasn't successful in his 3-year-old year, because the first Saturday in May he never even run. Well, here we have Cezanne. Maybe it's the Arrogate model. I don't know. That's maybe engaging a little too much in the hype.
Right, well, we'll see as it plays out after Saturday. We can talk more. But look at, if you remember too, I think McKenzie was the shining star of the stable for Bob Baffert in 2018, and he was injured. And the star was injured, like Nadal, the star has been injured, and all of a sudden this horse that nobody hadn't even run yet appears, Justify. Now maybe we're going to see another horse appear, Cezanne, that'll end up making us forget about Nadal as we forgot about McKenzie, at least through the Triple Crown that year. I don't know.
Now, for those who are wondering, Cezanne is a son of Curlin, and he's got a very strong female family. His third dam is actually one of the best foundation dams of the latter part of the 20th century. Her name is Better Than Honor, and she was the dam of 2 Belmont winners, Jazzle and Rags to Riches. So he's got stamina on the female side of his pedigree. He's got stamina and brilliance from the male side in Curlin.
Maybe that's why he costs $3.5 million or more.
Maybe. So will he live up to the hype? We'll have more on Cezanne next week. So let's squeeze in one more thing here. We haven't also had a chance to talk about a controversial issue right now in racing, and that is the Charlatan test
Arkansas Derby.
For the Arkansas Derby, the positive test that It's not officially positive yet because a split sample has been sent to the lab to verify the one that it leaked out that tested positive for lidocaine, slightly over the not the recommended, but the tolerated amount of lidocaine that can be in a horse's system. A lot of people have made a lot of noise about this, especially in the light of Justify also having a positive test during his 3-year-old season. What's your take on this?
I don't know listen, I'm not going to make an opinion really until we get the split sample back. Apparently, there's an explanation for this.
Human contamination, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Charlatan wasn't the only backer horse that tested positive. He won a race earlier in the day with a filly called Gammon. She came back positive as well. And Nadal, who ran later, did not come back positive. So there's a lot of moving parts in this. So let's just see how the split sample comes back. But it's been less than a great month for Bob because of those two things. We failed to mention Arrogate. He died. He had a tragic incident at the breeding farm. And then the test with Charlatan comes back. So, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people get the violin out for Bob, but you got to have a little sympathy because it's been a tough month or so for him.
Yeah, the one opinion that I'll offer on this, that it really is something that I hear from friends that follow horse racing on a casual basis but aren't as involved in it as we are. And they get it from headlines in the newspaper. Charlatan fails drug test. And they automatically lump a positive test for Charlatan, and also they did the same thing with Justify when that news came out last year, with these episodes like we're seeing right now with the accusations against Jason Service and Jorge Navarro. And they're two obviously.
It's not a performance-enhancing drug, lidocaine.
It's apples and oranges. I mean, when you're talking about the accusations against Jason Service and Jorge Navarro, totally. What you're talking about are chemicals that were manufactured for the purpose of narcotic chemicals, we assume, for the purpose of artificially stimulating a horse and, more importantly, evading the testing procedures that are in place right now.
You're talking about Service and Navarro, not Bob.
Service and Navarro, right. With the lidocaine that apparently has been found in Charlatan's system, lidocaine is a therapeutic medication that's on the list of approved therapeutic medications. So trace amounts can be found. I think it's 20 to 25 nanograms per milliliter are acceptable. And a nanogram, by the way, is not much. It's 1/10000000th of a gram. And reportedly, Charlatan came in at somewhere around between 40 and 50 nanograms. So it's an overage of a therapeutic medication as opposed to a stimulant, a narcotic that has no business being in the sport, that's manufactured for the express purpose of helping a horse run faster than he's ordinarily capable of running and of evading the testing mechanisms that are in place right now. Two completely different situations.
And by the way, this was not supposed to have been made public for any trainer receiving a positive until the split sample comes back. So it's a little bit unfair to Bob to even have this come out. And I think he's dealt with it pretty well right now.
All right. Anything else you want to touch on here?
Oh, God, I don't know. Can we fit anything in? I just can't wait to get back to a live race. So we'll have a couple more of these, I guess, before we actually do a live horse race, the Belmont. But it's been fun.
Yeah, but for those watching, the next two live races on our NBC schedule are the Belmont Stakes June the 20th, and immediately after that, a week later, June the 27th, we'll be bringing you the Stephen Foster from Churchill Downs. I don't think we will be at Churchill Downs, but we will be bringing you the Stephen Foster from Churchill Downs.
Right.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Take care.
Be careful.
Bye-bye.